What's up, Skadoolins? What's going on? I'm running errands today because I ain't got no job, so I'm working on that. So anyway, I wanted to respond to a couple of people in the comments, and one guy was like, I really appreciate well thought out comments and people that disagree with me that are respectful. So I'm not trying to be snarky and put them on blast in a bad way. I just thought, since I had such a thorough answer and I thought it could be beneficial to everybody, that I might as well just answer in the video. So this one guy was like, well, people in Asia wear masks, and they, you don't hear about them dropping dead and all this stuff too. Well, first of all, there's just a report of 2 boys in China dropping dead from wearing masks. So, and then there was another lady that passed out in her car wearing a mask and crashed her car and she got killed. But the thing about this is, I lived in Asia for 2 years. I know some of my subscribers know, I don't think others do, but I lived in Taiwan for 2 years. I was a teacher and I learned Mandarin for a bit. And I actually never wore a mask when I was there. And usually the culture is you only wear a mask when you're sick. You're not wearing it 24/7. You're wearing it if you're sneezing and coughing and you're around people, and so you don't have to basically keep covering your mouth when you cough or sneeze, and you don't have to keep washing your hands, and it just kind of lets people know that you're sick and just kind of to stay away. But like I said, I bought one, I tried it, and I was like, I can't breathe, so I'm done. And interestingly enough, I remember when I first moved to Taiwan, I would get really sick with asthma attacks, not communicable diseases, but I'm not sneezing stuff, but I was literally having an asthma attack every day, to the point where I was so overwhelmed and so I thought I was actually going to have to move back home. And I'd worked so hard. I'd gone through my TOEFL training. I got my TOEFL certification. It was a long process getting hired by this company to move everything over there. But I was being if I can't figure a way to stop having an asthma attack every day, I'm gonna have to move back to America. And I think the huge problem was, especially I lived in a town outside of Taipei. Taipei is a little bit more modern, but a lot of the buildings are built kind of like communist style, and they use tile, like bathroom tile, to build the sidewalks and the buildings and stuff, and the outsides of the buildings. And because it's a hot, humid environment, it basically attracts mold. So a lot of the old buildings had a shit ton of mold in them, and it was really triggering. It was triggering my endometriosis. It was triggering my asthma. It was awful. And I really started doing research on what can I do internally to support myself, because the steroid inhalers are terrible. They're terrible. And on so many, that's a whole another video, but anyway, so I honestly cut my grains down. I didn't completely cut it out because I'm in Asia and rice, and I love rice. I can live in Asia and not eat rice, but I limited my intake. And still was eating gluten, by the way, which I probably wouldn't have even done better had I cut out gluten, but I still did that. I cut it down, and then I basically would have a huge green smoothie every day, and I would drink a lot of water. And green smoothie has chlorophyll, and I would eat a lot of fruit, and it was easy because fruit and vegetables, the local towns on every corner, just there's a liquor store in the ghetto, and there they had fruit stands. Local farmers that grew fruit and that had vegetables. It was so easy to get fresh local vegetables and fruits all the time. So I ate a lot of that. And anyway, as a result, my health improved dramatically, and I stopped having asthma attacks, and I also as a result did not get sick where other people around me were getting sick. And now that I think about it, I wonder if the mask contributed to them getting sick, because even people I knew that wore masks when they were sick, they still got sick. It didn't stop them from getting sick. So, and I remember there was this guy that I worked with, and he was from Wales, and all the time And he was always sick, always coming to class sick, always coming to work sick, always sneezing, always coughing. And as he's sniffling and sneezing, okay, he's like, you never get sick. How come you never get sick? What do you do? And I basically told him everything I just told you. And he looked at me like I was crazy. And I'm like, oh, and I didn't eat like a lot of fast food. You know, I did, but, you know, I didn't eat as much as everybody else, I would say. I cut that down dramatically too. And he was like, he looked at me like I was crazy. Because he wants probably a pill or a vaccine to fix everything so he could still continue his unhealthy lifestyle. And I don't smoke either, and that's a huge factor too. There are people that smoked, and that messes with your health. So, anyway, I don't think, you know, generally speaking, I think Austra-Asian people, they're not going to make a big deal out of it, you know, because I know I'm being general, I know there are exceptions, but their whole culture is based on having a harmony in society and not basically stepping out of the box. So even if they are sick and they can't breathe, or they're having trouble breathing, or they think they're getting sick, they're most likely aren't going to say anything because they don't want to be an outlier. It's very rare that you see Asian people that are outliers in society because they've been so brainwashed and trained not to step outside the box. Even if they did, they probably wouldn't. So I don't know if there are any studies. If you know, that would be great if anybody can pass along any studies that have been done long term in Asia. But also, they're not wearing them 24/7, and they're not wearing them all the time like we're expected to do now. They're not wearing them, you know, constantly, right? Only maybe a few days when they're sick, when they're sneezing and coughing, right? So yeah, it's a custom, but it's still not. Nobody's done a long-term study on the whole, like, you know, planet having to wear masks all the time everywhere they go. It's a completely different thing. So I don't think that that's really a good comparison. And like I said, from my observation as I was thinking about it, people that still wore masks got sick, and I never wore masks. I bought one. I still have one as a souvenir. I have my old Taiwanese masks that I bought. They had them at 7-Eleven and everywhere, you know. I had them, but I never wore it. So, yeah, I mean, I hope that answers that. And then I had also somebody was talking about how in the, like, he was comparing basically a virus to sand, and how if you throw sand through holes, that most of the sand, like a screen, like a window screen, that most of the sand wouldn't get through. And actually a grain of sand is about the size of a screened window. So I think that's really, it's not really a genuine comparison. I think the mosquitoes and the chain link fence is a better comparison, because the holes in the mask are like great, like really, really big, not even close to the size of a virus. You can't even see. If you look up and you hold a mask up to light, you can actually see the porousness of a mask or a piece of material. Whereas for a virus, you still need an electron microscope to see it. It's super, super small. So it's still like thousands, or I would say hundreds of times smaller than the holes in a mask or any type of material. And that's why when scientists work in labs, they use hazmat suits. So, you know, they use hazmat suits, they cover, and, you know, we're also not covering our eyes and our ears, by the way. You know, viruses can enter through any orifice in our body. So we're not covering that. You know, droplets can get in somebody's eyes, and they can, you know, but people aren't taking that into consideration, you know. And as I've been saying on this channel, you know, the homeless population should be wiped out if it was that deadly, because they're not social distancing or washing their hands or doing any of the stuff that we're wearing masks, you know, that we're being required to do. So I mean, yeah, I just think that's like not a good comparison, because it would more be like a mosquito. I think the mosquito and the chain link fence is a more accurate comparison if you're trying to compare the holes of a mask to like the holes in the fence to the mask, and the mosquito being like the virus. Plus, I don't know if you guys saw that study. I think I talked about in the last video, but I'll just reiterate that this guy did, where he coughed into a petri dish, and with the mask on, and then there was no bacteria, and then with the mask off, he coughed into it, and the petri dish aggregated a lot of bacteria. Well, what they're not telling you is viruses are way smaller, so they can slip through they can actually slip through the holes in the mask. So you're not even able to prove that with an agar dish, because viruses don't multiply on agar dishes. They need a live cell host to replicate and reproduce. So yeah, that actually proves our point that actually the viruses are slipping through the mask. And then when you're wearing a mask, you're actually breathing in bacteria. You can see bacteria, but like I said, you need an electron microscope to actually see a virus. So when you're looking at the agar dishes that this guy coughed on, it's aggregating bacteria. And if you're coughing into your mask and you're wearing that, you're actually breathing in bacteria. And the more it multiplies, the more it throws your microgut biome off of balance, and the more you're susceptible you are to getting a cold and getting sick. So actually, I posted some links in the last one I pinned them to the top, where it's actually off of the CDC's website. They actually did a whole review on masks and washing hands and stuff. And one of the studies that they did on cloth masks was what am I trying to say? They basically said it was worse, because it led to more infection in the end because of what I just told you right now. And then there's another one that I posted with the deoxinization of surgeons, basically. And this was done in 2008. This was done before all the politicizing of this, I don't know if that's a word, political mess with the mask and stuff. So if they just happen to withdraw this, just think politics, okay? If this was done in 2008, if this makes its internet rounds and now all of a sudden it's retracted, okay? But basically, they did a study on surgeons and nurses in the operating room wearing masks for long periods of time, and it said that their oxygen levels were depleted. So but then, even in that situation, nurses and doctors aren't wearing them 24/7 all the time, right? You go to the doctor's office and then they're not wearing them all the time. So when people say, oh, well, I guess nurses and doctors are just dropping dead all the time, but they're not wearing them all the time. They're not wearing them every day. So it's still like, a disingenuous comparison. And even during surgeries, they take breaks. They kind of get a breather. They're trained not to touch them and stuff because they know that they're passing on. And it's really to prevent you from, if you're operating on somebody with a gaping wound, it's really to prevent you from not like hawking a noogie or something accidentally in there while you're operating, okay? So, and it's so funny that people want to act all like, oh, science and blah, 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 the doctors and stuff, when, a few centuries ago, there was this guy named Semmelweis that was talking about washing your hands, and, at that time, doctors didn't even, he was basically laughed out of the establishment for his theory about hand washing and reducing, germs and stuff. And basically when a lot of people were dying in childbirth from doctors, okay, not because they weren't having babies at hospitals, which is a common misconception. What was because a lot of the doctors will do other things, and they would go to the morgue, and they never wash their hands. They thought that they were above it. They thought they were too godly to wash their hands. So a lot of women were getting infections from the doctors, okay, and they were dying in childbirth. And then when Semmelweis, his name is Ignaz Semmelweis, you should Google that, look him up. When he figured this out, and he was like, oh, well, if they wash their hands, then that reduces and when he did that with his group of people, it went down to 0. But the medical establishment was so arrogant, and it's basically the same thing what we're doing now, that basically they drove him insane because they shamed him okay? Same thing that we're going through now, though, where there are doctors that are coming out and trying to tell the truth, and because they don't fit the narrative or the agenda that's going on, they're being shamed, and they're being removed, from or they're being investigated, like the Dr. Scott Jensen in Minnesota, who basically was talking about how he was given orders to code other people's death as COVIDs, and there have been other doctors that are coming out. They're trying to make an example out of him, basically, because he's going against the narrative. So now they're going after his license, right? This is what I was talking about in the video, where you see a doctor that comes out and has the balls, because a lot of doctors are spineless, but when ones that do come out, they have they're a blessing, and they go through a lot. They're putting a lot at risk, basically, to do this, because they know, even if they're telling the truth, even though they're doing their job, the pharmaceutical gangsters are gonna get them, right? They're gonna come after them. So I would really like to see more doctors band together. I keep hearing Dr. I think Buttar saying, and Dr. Shiva's also said that he's gotten lots of letters and messages from lots of doctors from around the world. And I'm like, y'all need to hold hands and band together, okay? This shit is getting ridiculous, all right? You're letting evil take over because you have no balls. I'm just saying, grow some balls and help save the human race, because you guys are needed now more than ever, and you're breaking your Hippocratic oath by not doing so. So, those doctors, whether you are complicit and just complying because you're too arrogant and too close-minded to accept new information, or you're too spineless, you're still on the side of evil. All right? Yeah. Oh, by the way, you can PayPal me. I always keep saying that. I forget to say this. I'm trying to get better. You can PayPal me, because I also see people in the comments who are like, you're the PayPal? You can PayPal me. You can P.O. Box me. I'm probably going to put this video up before I get home. So it's in the last video that I did in the description section. When I get home later, I'll put the rest of the stuff in there. You can become a Patreon or a Subscribe Star person. I don't know, a Subscribe Star patron. Follow me on my other channels. And also, what was I going to say? I would like to know who's interested. I'm going to do a call-in show / webinar, I guess I would say, on the 17th. The first hour I will talk about what I'm going to do, and then the second hour after that I will take calls. So, but I'm just realizing all the information I've aggregated through the years. I've had a podcast since 2001 with my best friend, where we interviewed lots of people. It's so funny. I'll get people and they're like, have you heard of Patroners? Have you heard of Fritz Springmeier? Have you heard of this person? I was like, yeah, we interviewed them a few years ago, but here's our podcast. They're archived on SoundCloud. Here's this person, So I've done that. I've done a lot of researcher. I've been an educator for almost, God, you don't know how old I am. I would say almost 13 years, 14 years. I started when I was young, but I've been a teacher. So now what I'm looking to do is to take a lot of this information and break it down into simple terms to get people understanding how to conceptualize this information. So for instance, when I'm talking about the coronavirus outbreak and how it's a pandemic and everything, I'll talk to certain people and they'll say yeah, but how can people coordinate and get this all together? I don't understand. But then I realized a lot of people don't understand the concept of compartmentalization. They don't know about the Bilderberg Group or the Trilateral Commission. They don't know about the Logan Act. They don't know about certain people and their interests in higher places. They don't know about Fabian Society, all that stuff. So what I really would like to do is kind of have an elementary class where I can put together, I'll probably charge some beta testers first and then work with those people to develop the course within over maybe a period of 2 months before I officially launch it. But I still need money to get the course going because it takes time and energy to aggregate information, to research, to put it together. Just as if I was a teacher, I would be getting paid to do the same thing as a teacher, right? right? So that's what I would do, even though a lot of the lesson plans before were actually pre-written and we weren't even allowed to stray from that. But now I'm developing the curriculum. I was a curriculum writer for a year or two with this company, because I thought I can help change the narrative, and they were just so strict on their policy about the narrative that they wanted to purvey. So I was really frustrated, and I actually tried to have a website, and I didn't know anything about marketing and all that stuff. I'm learning, you know, as I've gotten older, but I actually wanted to have a website that presented this alternative point of view, especially for ESL students, because I feel like, you know, ESL students know or would like to talk about some of this stuff, but they're only given one point of view. And I think when you're learning a language, you're as a language learner myself, and I'm learning Mandarin or learning Spanish, it's really, I'm searching for other alternative points of view, because it's so pervasive, especially the expat community is very, very liberal, that they offer only like one point of view. And if you even question that, it's you know, you get like ridiculed for it. So I want to take special consideration with this course that I'm developing for ESL learners and for children. So I would say it would probably be for about children 14 and up, that I will offer this course for. I won't curse. I'll be professional. My curses, my ranting, I curse in my rants because it's raw and it's emotional, and I don't feel like I should censor myself. But when I'm in a professional environment, when I'm teaching kids, even when I interview people, I really don't curse, especially if they're elderly people. You know, I'm not going to do that. So, yeah. So I thought I'd, you know, use my skills as a teacher, instead of trying to find another job where I'm, you know, bending to the will of other people and being, you know, reduced as a slave. I actually have skills. And if more, so let me know if you're interested in the course, what suggestions you would have. I'll be talking more about it next Friday on the 17th. And also, I'll probably be surveying people for this, but I would just do like a video course with a workbook and questions and stuff, and other sources where you can go and take this information and you know, synthesize it and meditate on it and absorb it for yourselves. But if it gets really popular and people want it, I will also probably offer an essay writing class, because I have skills in that. And I actually like teaching essay writing and grading essays, but I will probably have to charge. I might make that a separate class, and I would have to charge more for that, because it takes time to grade essays and give feedback. And I would probably limit the class size to a smaller amount of people that do that. So yeah, let me know if you're interested. I know it was kind of a long video, but yeah, that's it, y'all. I'll talk to you later. Peace and love. Bye-bye. Mwah.